Hey, today we are going to make the Moroccan inspired chicken over couscous. I developed this recipe a couple years ago when I came back from Morocco, and I loved the food and the colors and the spices and everything else. Well, after teaching it a couple times, I realized that not everyone has a tagine and not everyone wants to buy one. So I took the flavors of Morocco and put them into a slow cooker recipe, and since then I've made adjustments, I've made changes, but most of all I've made it taste even better. So I hope you're going to enjoy this one because it's a great slow cooker or InstaPot recipe. So we're going to start with a little bit over 3 pounds of chicken. And as you look at the recipe, the easiest thing to do is divide it into 3 sections in your mind. The marinating the chicken, the cooking the chicken in the slow cooker, and the couscous. So we're going to start with our chicken marinade. So I've had this chicken marinating for about 30 minutes now. And when you make this recipe, it's easiest to go ahead and marinate your chicken and go ahead and put the marinade together, put it in the bag, put your chicken in the bag, set it aside while you get everything else ready. So in my marinade, here's what I've got. I've got a little bit of cinnamon, a teaspoon of cinnamon, a teaspoon of cumin, a teaspoon of turmeric. So that's what's giving it its beautiful gold color. Then I have half teaspoon of 2 other spices. I've got a half teaspoon of cayenne and a half teaspoon of cardamom. And that really captures a lot of the spicy flavors of Morocco. Not hot, but just flavorful. Couple other ingredients in my bag here. Along with the chicken, I have about a 1/4 cup of extra virgin olive oil, and I have about a 1/4 cup of ground almonds. These are the same sliced almonds that we're going to use to garnish with, but these are sliced toasted almonds that I have put in the food processor and zhuzhed it up a little bit. These aren't powder, but they're definitely smaller. We don't use nuts as thickeners very often in the United States, but they do it a lot in Morocco. So that's going to add a little bit more body to our sauce for our chicken. A couple other things we have here. I have the zest of 2 oranges, and I just wanted to show you this. I know we've been using the microplane, the microplane, but what I did want to remind you of is that when you use your microplane, you want to ground the end on something, and you're going to find that that makes it much easier to grate or zest. So this is about a little over 2 tablespoons of zest. And when I use the microplane on this, I never push down hard because you still want some orange color on your orange. You don't want to go into that white part. The pith can be really bitter. So you'll get a little bit more than 2 tablespoons of zest when you do your oranges. Oh my gosh, it smells so good. And then let's see, what else? Oh, garlic. And I wanted to talk to you about garlic today. You know, I usually just give you a clove or a head of garlic, and I know as a home cook that that's a hassle. So here's a shortcut step you can use in your healthy kitchen. The active ingredient in garlic is called allicin, and allicin is only released from the garlic clove if it is grated or chopped or minced. You have to cut the clove in order for the allicin to be released, which is good news because you can buy these refrigerated garlic cloves that are peeled, and they're not going to stay as fresh as a whole head of garlic, but it's a real time saver at home. I use it in the healthy kitchen all the time. Just make sure your garlic cloves look good and smell good, don't have any brown spots on them. So this is something you can use as a shortcut. So what I did was put all of the chicken, about a little more than 3 pounds, and the marinade all in this bag, and I massaged my chicken to make sure that it was well covered with the marinade. You're gonna let it sit out for more than a half an hour, put it in your fridge. Actually, it'll probably be all right for an hour, but that's it. You don't wanna get into the danger zone with your raw chicken. So now what I'm gonna do is just put my chicken into my crock pot. I've turned my crock pot on high, and my chicken is gonna go right in there. And along with the chicken, so that's my step 1. along with the chicken, and I'm gonna get all the goodies out of this bag that I can. Oh my gosh, it smells so good with that orange zest and all those spices. And I'm just gonna throw away that bag. There's no marinade left in it. Along with the chicken in the slow cooker, I'm gonna put a couple things. I have one 15-ounce can, that's the regular size can, of rinsed, drained chickpeas. So there those go in. I have a cup of chopped apricots. Don't worry about chopping them carefully. And when you get couscous or chicken stew or something like that, tagine in Morocco, they're all different sizes. You get whole fruit and little tiny pieces. These are chopped dates, same thing. And then I've got about 2 cups of chicken broth, and you know I always like the low sodium or no sodium chicken broth. This one was low sodium, I think. And then last but not least, I have a teaspoon of salt, and that's the sea salt, and a half teaspoon of pepper. I took my pepper earlier. I knew I'd need it for several recipes. Put some in the spice grinder, some peppercorns in the spice grinder, zhuzhed it up, and I have enough pepper for all my recipes today. So there that goes in. I'm gonna stir it up some, and then I'm gonna put the top on my slow cooker, and I'm gonna set it aside for 6 to 8 hours. Oh my gosh, that just looks beautiful. I wish you could see the inside, but you'll see the finished product. It's got that gorgeous color from the turmeric. So top on, it's on high. And I do want to tell you something about your slow cooker. Low and high are exactly the same temperature. The difference is it's low takes a longer time to get up to 210, which is the temperature of a slow cooker. High gets you faster to 210. So this is going to cook for about 6 to 8 hours. When it is done, I will know it's done because the chicken is going to be about 165 on my instant read thermometer, or you can take a chicken thigh out, pull it apart. It should be cooked through and white. So that is my chicken. I'm going to set it. Okay, chicken is ready. It's been about 6 hours and it is done to perfection. So I'm going to make my couscous real quickly. And to do that, I have a pan of boiling water right here. And I'm going to take the top off. This is about a cup of boiling water. I'm going to put a little bit of salt in there, just a sprinkle, and my cup of couscous. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about couscous in just a moment. I've got my couscous in there. I'm going to stir it up, and then I'm going to turn it off, and I'm going to take it off of the heat. Let's see if I got that. Here we go. And then let me grab one more pot holder. And then I'm going to take it off the heat here. And I'm just going to let it steam for a little bit. Couscous. So let's talk. It's pasta. It's not grains. A lot of people think it's a grain, but it's actually a semolina pasta. In Morocco, it's crazy. The way they make it is they use the bran, or it's actually still the grain, but it doesn't get processed when they're making wheat. And they roll it in more flour, which makes these tiny little pellets. There are 3 kinds of couscous: Moroccan, Israeli, and Lebanese, and that's in order of their size. The Moroccan is the tiniest. Sometimes in Morocco, they will make a stew in something that's called a couscousière. That's the French name. I cannot pronounce it in Moroccan, but it's this big fat belly pot with a screen or filter on the top. They put the couscous on top. They do the stew in the bottom, and the steam from the stew cooks the couscous up on top. But in the United States, we get already par-cooked couscous, so it just takes like 3 or 4 minutes in boiling water to plump up and get beautiful. And so while I'm waiting for that, still gonna be a few more minutes, I just wanna talk to you a little bit about apricots. So we have an apricot here, which is not sulfured, not sulfured here and sulfured here. And we talked a little bit about it earlier. You can use either one. The ones that are not sulfured, I think, are a little bit softer and juicier, but you can understand that because if they use a little sulfur on them, and by the way, sulfur is not a big deal. If you can eat pickles, olives, and capers, you can have a little sulfur on your fruit. And in Morocco, their fruit is so beautiful and it's so brightly colored, I know they're sulfuring it. But I've included both of those in your bag this time. You can decide which one you like better and use the one that you like. All right, so my couscous should be done now. And so I'm just gonna take a fork and I'm gonna fluff it up a little bit. And the nice thing about couscous is you can do this 15 or 30 minutes before your stew, your Moroccan-inspired. Oh, look, it's so pretty. You'll see it when I pour it out on the platter. Before, you can do it 15 or 30 minutes before your stew is ready, your chicken, and it'll stay nice and hot in this pan. Okay. So again, I'm gonna grab some hot holders and I'm gonna put this out. Ah, I got it all. On the platter, and I'm gonna kind of just move it around a little bit so I can put my Moroccan inspired chicken stew there. Oh, I'm gonna unplug it so I can pull it over, and it's gonna be hot. I'm using a lot of pot holders today. So I'm gonna take it out. There we go. And now I'm gonna take my chicken. Woo! My chicken's trying to get away from me. Take my chicken and put it out on my platter. And the chicken has broken apart in even smaller pieces and its most glorious color, and I wish you could be here with me because the kitchen smells great and yours will too. Here we go. And that chicken releases juice and you've got the broth, so you've got all this gorgeous sauce. And you didn't have to do anything for 6 hours. Woohoo! I love that. So here goes my chicken. And then what I'm gonna do, look how gorgeous that is I'm just gonna pour the rest of the sauce right on top of it when I get the chicken out. And I'm gonna garnish it with those same toasted sliced almonds that we chopped up earlier and used. And that's one of the reasons this is such a lovely sauce, is because it has those almonds in there. I'm gonna pour it right in. Oh my gosh, so excited. Here is the almonds, and I'm just gonna put those all over the top. Dried fruit and nuts on almost every dish I had in Morocco because they have such beautiful dried fruit and nuts. And then just to give it a little color and a little bright flavor, I've got some cilantro here. You could also use parsley. Gosh, you could even use basil. So there it is. Look at this platter of gorgeousness. So you could, this is gonna make enough for 4 to 6 folks, but the great thing is this freezes beautifully, and you can bring out one platter and have dinner from it. So I hope you enjoy the Morocco-inspired chicken and couscous.